Hi there guys, as one speaking again. Welcome to my channel. This is the third part of my tutorial series, and this time around we're gonna talk about intersecting shapes. Last time we talked about putting difficult shapes or complex shapes into perspective. Without further ado, let's get into it. Vanishing point 1, vanishing point 2, both on the horizon line, and then below the horizon line we're gonna have vanishing point 3. Now this is gonna be an extreme shape, all of it, but that's okay, that's the kind of thing that I like to do. So first off, I'm gonna draw in a hexagon prism, but you already know how to do that. We covered that last video. So I'm just gonna time lapse it in, so you can still follow what I'm doing, but this will not be narrated. So give me a couple of seconds and I'll draw in hexagon prism. We got our hexagon in. Let's draw in the cube and we're gonna make it overlap with the hexagon. Now I'm gonna again do a time lapse and I'm gonna pause it when I'm gonna talk about intersecting those shapes. The first thing that I always do is get the sides gone that I definitely won't see. So what I know, this cube is gonna intersect with it, with this hexagon prism, but it's gonna come to the front. So I know that the back side of my hexagon prism will not be visible. So I can delete that one, that's for sure. The top of the cube is closer to us as well. It overlaps with the hexagon prism, we can delete that too. And then the lower sides of the prism as well. The back side of the hexagon I don't need at all. Nothing will be visible there. So that's gone too. But now I got to decide where the front side of my cube is going to intersect with our hexagon. Let's say I'm gonna intersect it over here. Then I need a guideline that follows my second vanishing point. So I'm gonna bring that up. That's this one. And let's say I'm gonna zoom in again, that it intersects somewhere over here. So I'm just gonna draw a straight line that must be in my cube, like this. So, and this line below will disappear because that's in our hexagon now. So I know I can delete this one as well. I'm gonna zoom out to make it a little bit more obvious. And now this intersection goes that way because it follows the side of our hexagon. So I'm gonna, actually I should go parallel, but we know we got our vanishing point below, so this side will become a little bit tighter. Remember, foreshortening, that's the same thing again. Gonna clean it up to keep it a little simple. So we go to here, and you see this one is a little bit smaller than this one, which is a little bit bigger. Now, that means that we don't need our prism side over here because that's intersecting in our cube. So I can delete that one as well. Rest us the lower side of our cube intersecting with the hexagon. And again, that we become a little bit smaller towards the end. I'm gonna draw that in. Should follow this side over here. but just a little bit more narrow below. Something like this. But that means that our cube vanishes into the hexagon. Now, of course, since this side goes into our cube, we know we can take away this. And the same for the lowest point. So now, if I zoom out, you can tell that our cube goes through our hexagon. Maybe I should turn off the guidelines to make it a little bit clearer. And that should look something like this. Now, this is still very simple. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to draw, I don't know where yet, but I guess somewhere over here, a rectangle that goes all the way across, and we're going to intersect some shapes there as well. Again, I'm going to do this in a time lapse. Okay, so now we got our rectangle in, but we're gonna intersect it with the shapes above. Maybe leave a little space so I can explain a little bit more. Now again, the same thing. I'm gonna delete the sides I'm definitely not gonna see. Just to keep it easy for myself, I do it now on camera, but I do this as well as I just draw by myself. Because this kind of thing is very complicated and you need to keep a clear mind for it. So the back side I erased because that's going to be gone. And now we're just going to intersect over here and over here, but we're going to keep a space between here to keep things a little bit more interesting. So I know this side of our hexagon is flat and follows that vanishing point. So that means I need to cut it off somewhere over here. I'm going to make it shorter. And I'm going to need my second vanishing point, should be this one. And let's say I'm going to cut it somewhere over here. Just going to make sure that on the left side I leave some space. So it goes below our cube. And I'm going to cut off the lower side of our hexagon. I'm going to zoom in. Maybe not too far, so it's visible. Something like this. Now I know the lower side of my hexagon is gone. It goes into our rectangle. It becomes shorter, of course. But my side, this one, of my hexagon, the lower side, is now also in our rectangle. So we need to cut that off as well. And therefore I need the left vanishing point, and you see I already set it up. Delete the lower side, that is the original shape, and my hexagon intersects over there. Now what you can tell is that there's a little space between here and between my rectangle. And let's say just for fun, we're gonna put in another cube below our previous one and keep that gap, that we just were talking about. Gonna draw that in quick, just the base form, and then we're gonna cut it out later. Okay, to be fair, that's not a cube, but I really wanted to show the lower side. Now, the second cube, rectangle, I'm gonna cut off the sides that I definitely won't see. I know this is behind our first cube. I'm gonna zoom out like this. Let me redo that like this. So the back side we won't see, this side either because it's behind our hexagon. Here we need to decide what we're gonna do now. But first, I'm gonna take out all the sides I definitely won't need. So this I won't need, this side and this side. So first I'm gonna start with the hardest part, and that's getting this side right. I know it's gonna follow the same cube because it's at the same height. So I just need to prolong this line towards the intersection point. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Extend it to the lower side of my hexagon. So that should be it. Yes, gonna zoom out. So that means now I can delete this line and this line. And what I also know is now this side overlaps again, so I can cut that out my sides of my hexagon. Something like that. Now of course, our cube also intersects with our rectangle over here. I'm gonna take the right vanishing point, and I know now where my cube goes into my rectangle because of this point here. That intersection point is the intersection point of my hexagon and the rectangle. So I can just draw this in. Here we go. And all the lower side of our lower cube vanishes into our rectangle. Put a T in there. So again, I can delete the lower lines. They go into my rectangle, something like this. But now we gotta decide what happens with this line as well, because that's also going into our rectangle. That's pretty easy. Take the left vanishing point, and where I just decided where my intersection was, this is the cutoff side, and now we get into the other side of our cube. So I can cut, but not all the way, because this little part goes behind our rectangle. So we need to keep that part. That's an overlap. And that makes it very clear what's going on. So now we got that. We can delete this side because again, that's where our second cube goes into our rectangle. Now, of course, since I deleted this part, that little section in between of our rectangle needs to go as well, because that's going into our cube actually. So, but then of course we got a problem here because this doesn't look right. Then we need the left vanishing point to cut out the top side of our lower cube. Gonna do that very quick. Zoom in just to make it a little bit more precise. Something like this. And this little part, we don't need that anymore. And there you have your shapes that are intersecting. My shapes are very extreme because my vanishing points lay close to one another. So that's it for this part 3. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribing, maybe even leave a like. In the comments you can write down what you want to see next. Maybe you want to see some more intersecting shapes. But for as it stands now, the next video probably will be about putting letters into 3D perspective. Yeah, thank you very much guys. See you later.